with me game hunting at the Cotton Shed in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was away for the weekend and I ended up stopping here in search of video games. First off, I found this Pokemon lunchbox for 20 bucks. I almost picked it up, but honestly, I would probably never use it. Then I ended up finding this cool little Bowser set here. I didn't end up grabbing this, but it looked really awesome to me. For 25 bucks, I probably could do without it, as well as this little Pikachu Pokemon figure for 10 bucks, all in that same booth. Then this booth actually had a ton of video games, which was totally awesome to kind of go through and see what they had for sale. This Evil Dead game catches my eye every time I see it, but I just can't get it for some reason. I want to pick it up at some point, but I want to pick it up for dirt cheap. Checked out the PS4 games and the PS3 games. Ended up finding Guitar Hero Aerosmith for the PlayStation 3, which, I mean, wasn't that bad of a deal, but Then I went to the Wii games where I ended up finding Crash for the Wii, which is definitely a game I thought I should pick up. Then I checked out the Blu-rays where I saw Detective Pikachu and Pixels. That Detective Pikachu said it had the Pokemon card inside. So, of course, you know, I had to check to see if it was even there. And unfortunately, the card wasn't, which was a big bummer. But both discs were there. I don't really need this, but it was awesome to kind of check it out. Absolutely amazing movie. Then I kept walking through this antique flea market booth kind of place, which was kind of interesting. I saw these Pokemon cards from afar, and every time I tried to put them back on a hook, another one of them would end up falling. So as you can see, I was trying to kind of keep them from falling here, but every time I touched one, a bunch fell, which was kind of a bummer. But then at the end here, you notice one fell, and it ended up falling into a bin, which actually had more Pokemon cards, so I checked that out as well. I wish I knew more about Pokemon cards, but for the most part, it's cool to see cards like this. I don't know if they're worth picking up or not. Then I continued on where I found this Nintendo DS game cartridge kind of holder, which I thought was pretty cool, but not something I needed for 10 bucks. This booth had a bunch of video games here, are some PlayStation 3 games, as well as underneath you saw those Xbox 360 games, a few PS2 games here or there, or Xbox games. This PSP game caught my eye, and I almost picked it up, but I think I've already got this game, so I left it behind. There's some Wii games there, as well as more PSP games up here on the top. But these prices were a little bit more than I would have liked to have paid, so I did sadly end up leaving those behind. And I checked out the Wii section and ended up finding the SpongeBob Wii game that I think would probably be fun, but I've never played it. Should I pick it up? Then I kept going where I found this kind of rack of games here. There were a ton of like Xbox 360, Xbox original games, and even a Wii game. But honestly, it was a bunch of things that had been picked over. And I'm pretty sure like the last time I was here, like 2 or 3 years ago, the same stuff was here. So I didn't really feel the need to pick any of this up, but it was nice to see it and check it out. Then I found some of these blind box Yu-Gi-Oh boxes, which are kind of cool to see. I loved these things back as a kid, but I don't know too much about them nowadays. But I continued on where I found this booth that has a weird mask, and next to it was actually some video games, but these games are all beat up and definitely not worth picking up, so I left those behind. I did end up finding a few games here, Wii games, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 games, but nothing that jumped out at me that I absolutely had to have. That Batman game is a fun game, but I've already got it in the collection. And last but not least, I found a few Xbox games here that are still sealed, but they're all sports games, so obviously I didn't need to pick any of this up. Now, even though I didn't really pick up too much here, I did want to show it off because there are places like this where you can find some amazing stuff, and then sometimes you'll go in and won't find anything at all. Like you saw today, I did end up finding 2 Wii games for only $5 each, and we'll check about the value at the end, but First off, I ended up getting a Guitar Hero 3 Legend of Rock for the Wii for only $5. It is like water damage, but other than that, it is complete. I feel like the case on this one's not the best either. Quite frankly, the case on both of these games isn't that great, but for $5, I picked this up. I was already here. I thought it was well worth it. And then I ended up finding Crash Mind Over Mutant, which I've never actually seen before, and I've never played it. So I figured it's a $5 Wii game. Let's go ahead and pick it up and see if it's even worth playing. But it is missing the manual, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm not too worried about that there, because I'm definitely excited to be able to add 2 Wii games that I don't have into my collection. Well, 1 Wii game that I don't have, and 1 game that I'm probably going to trade out or do something with. But let's go ahead and see the value of these games and if it was even worth going and picking up. I've got my computer pulled up here, so let's see if these games are actually worth picking up. Starting off, we've got Guitar Hero 3 for the Wii, which I already looked up. And it looks like this game is actually worth a little bit more on the Wii than the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. You're talking $7, $9, $11, and then $16.60 complete in the box. Now, this one does have some water damage, so this one's probably worth maybe like $12 to $15. So $5 into $15 is not really a bad deal. I'll probably use this to trade or find something like that. But then we also have Crash Mind Over Mutant, which I think is probably the better deal. I've never actually played this game or even heard of it, so when I saw it, I knew I was going to have to pick it up. It's worth $20 on the Nintendo DS or $18 realistically. But if you go down to the Wii, it looks like it's worth, again, actually $15. So I ended up spending $10, and these games are worth around $30. But this is going to stay in the collection, and this is probably going to move on. But overall, I'm not too disappointed by that. I think the price here was okay, but I probably could have done better. Going into flea markets like this, you oftentimes find good stuff, and then other times it's just a bummer and you don't see anything. So I'm not bummed out about this. I was in the area. I've got some family that lives in Little Rock, so while I was out there, I figured I might as well check it out. But overall, I'm not too disappointed. I think these are some good games, and Crash on the Wii, I feel like this game is going to be absolutely ridiculous and definitely probably well worth it. So I'm glad I ended up grabbing it. But I'm going to get out of here because I want to play some more games. But these were not too bad. I've been here before where I found a ton of stuff, and I've been here before where I haven't found anything. So grabbing a few games is a pretty good deal for me. So I'm getting out of here. So make sure you check out that video out if you haven't already.